Greetings, Exiles, I'm Gav. Grinding Gear Games is facing a little bit of a dilemma right now, one that most people aren't even aware of. With now not one but two live service titles under their belt, and Path of Exile 1 taking a back seat for the better part of a year in order for them to lay the groundwork of PoE 2's early access. The pressure's at an all-time high for GGG to continuously deliver quality content at a predictable pace for both games. For this studio, the issue has never really been ambition or talent. The real bottleneck has to be New Zealand's strict hiring laws.
All right, so slight plug. We're hiring. We're in New Zealand, so that's hard. It's hard to get work visas, and we don't pay as much as the Bay Area. But if that's no problem, and you want to work on Path of Exile and like everything you saw, there's the contact details.
Grinding Gear Games is an accredited employer under New Zealand's Accredited Employer Work Visa Program, or AEWV, so they have the ability to hire outside of New Zealand and Australia, but the AEWV requirements state that before you can ask a migrant worker to apply for a visa, first you have to apply for a job check in order to verify whether or not the job meets the criteria of applying outside of New Zealand. I literally recorded footage for New Zealand's immigration website on Sunday for this video, and the job check section changed on Monday. So I've gone back and gotten updated footage of the website. To my surprise, the requirements are even more strict, and it states even more clearly that the AEWV is designed to ensure that New Zealanders are first in line for jobs. Due to the complexity that's now involved here, I'm not going to try and dissect the legalese or act like I know what all of this means, but essentially it's a major pain in the ass to even attempt to offer jobs to non-citizens. As of June 2nd, 2025, on the Grinding Gear Games website, it says at the very bottom of their employment offerings, please only apply if you currently reside in New Zealand or Australia and are either a New Zealand or Australian citizen. Whether that's by choice or by necessity, I'm not sure, but it's a clear bottleneck, and one that makes scaling up a lot harder than it is for other game studios, particularly those in the US. A wise man once said, size doesn't matter, it's about how you use it. And when it comes to game studios, that couldn't be more true. The total number of people credited on Diablo 4 is near or even over like 9,000 or some crazy number. But the Diablo 4 team of developers, artists, and otherwise at Blizzard is closer to 300 or so. The team working on World of Warcraft recently formed a union at Blizzard. They're sitting at around 500 strong right now. As of July 2024, Bungie had reportedly 850 employees working on Destiny 2. I could go on and on listing off larger companies with questionable output for their team size, but they aren't just a lean and efficient team. Their quality to budget ratio is extremely impressive. By Jonathan Rogers' own admission in a recent interview with Destin, the total development costs of Path of Exile 2 was under $100 million.
Are you able to give us any hints about what Path of Exile 2 costs to make? Like, is it over 8 digits? Or if it's 9 digits, does that number start with a 2?
It's definitely not 9 digits. It's, you know,
Okay.
it's much lower than 9 digits. I don't honestly, I don't have the figure completely to hand, but I will certainly say that we were profitable from that launch. Like the early access launch made us profitable, right? Like
Great.
Like in terms of it paid off the development costs for sure. You know, we're perfectly fine there. I guess you're probably thinking about the fact that, you know, in America, development budgets have ballooned very significantly, and there seems to be sort of issues there. I guess that's sort of a problem that you know, I guess would be specific to America, I would say, because the rest of the game development industry and the rest of the world, I don't think is having that same kind of concern. So yeah, you know, the project ended up very well in that regard.
Good. That's great to hear. I was sort of curious, why do you think you have such a good grasp on your costs to profit ratio versus the Western market? Is it just where you live, or like what helps?
I don't think it's necessarily, I mean, okay, so California obviously has very high salaries relative to other countries, but I mean, I would say New Zealand's pretty much in line with the rest of the world as far as salaries go, like outside of that. So, I mean, salaries is definitely a part of it. But the other thing as well is we try to be a very efficient company, right? Like we try to lower the bureaucracy. We haven't, you know, got multiple levels of middle management and things like that. We just, you know, try to keep things slim and lean and efficient. And it's sort of interesting because, you know, something that happens to us is that for a lot of people, our company is their first job. And so at some point, you know, they'll decide for whatever reason they want to leave and go to another company. And a lot of the time when that happens, they have an awakening of like what other companies are actually like, because they sort of assume like they'll be in our company and then they'll see and they'll often think, oh, it's so inefficient that this is happening or that is happening, whatever. And then they go to another company and they realize actually GGG is very efficient relative to a lot of other companies. So it's something that I kind of take pride in, but it's also a source of frustration for me a lot of the time, because, like this is something I care a lot about. And so anytime there is any kind of thing, which is like, I can see bureaucracy building up, it kind of, goes, I have to get rid of that, So like, it's kind of a constant thing where I just constantly have to be fighting against it, because it's as I said, something that just builds up in companies over time, and we're getting bigger, right? Like we're over 200. I think we're about 210 at the moment. Like some of those things start to pile up, and like you start to run into scaling issues. So I'm really hoping we'll be able to keep our kind of lean approach, because I do think it's a huge part of why we're able to create content efficiently and deliver quickly.
Whether it's game design, monetization, or community interaction, Grinding Gear Games is punching well above their weight within the genre, and honestly the industry as a whole. One thing GGG has never shied away from is admitting when something isn't working. In Jonathan Rogers' most recent interview with my pal Talkative Try, he laid out a clear roadmap for their path forward.
I mean, just to sort of talk about this, I mean, I was going to say this at the start of the, the live stream for PoE 1, but I suppose I might as well just say it now. So basically, like, in the past, well, not in the distant past, we always had like, the deadline is locked, the features are not, right? Like that's the way that that we want things to be. And the reason why you do that is because you can't lock both, right? You can't say this is the time and these are the features there will be, right? Because there's always development, things happen, right?
Yes.
So effectively, if you want to lock the features, you can't lock the date, and if you want to lock the date, you can't lock the features. And so basically, we in the further go past were always locking dates, but then, like, as we sort of had PoE 2 in development, we started to get to a point where we were locking features instead. And I think, honestly, that kind of wasn't the best. It kind of means that, you're in a situation where, when dates aren't predictable, like players don't know what's going on. And also you can't communicate with the players about when things are going to happen. Because because we don't know, right? It's like, well, the feature has to happen. The Huntress has to make it in. We don't know when it's going to be ready. We can't announce the date until the point where we know that that's happening, right? All I can do is give a vague estimate. So now, and I think this is going to be much healthier for PoE 1 as well. We're locking dates. We know when things are going to be. Like if something doesn't get done, we just won't put it in. We'll put it in the next one. So I think that's a much better way of doing development. So what that means is, we've got the PoE 1 release coming up, that's in June, and then we'll have the PoE 2 release 2 months after that, so 4 months from one to the other. But then we know we're locking in already, like there'll be another PoE 1 release 4 months after the PoE 1 release that we have, right? That'll be locked in, and then we'll have another PoE 2 release 4 months after that in December, right? So we're basically saying we're doing 4 months. It's going to be consistent. It's going to always be the case. Like we don't want to have this kind of uncertainty around this anymore. And the other thing that locking dates does is it kind of does act as a forcing function of like, you actually do need to, to make sure you're actually shipping something.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of a very important element of that. So, effectively, like the change in development model there, like back to locking dates, I think it's just going to be way, way better.
They know that there's work to do, and they're actively course correcting in order to get that right. Path of Exile 1 is no longer fully exiled, and Path of Exile 2 should continue course from the position that they propped it up in, with constant quality of life and gameplay improvements rolling in almost weekly, as well as a larger content patch containing a new league, balance adjustments, and new features every 4 months, consistently and reliably. Behind Path of Exile 1 and 2 is a team and studio that's shown time and time again that when they're trusted to deliver, they do. The only question now is, can they actually pull it all off? I think it's really just going to be up to time and the player base to decide, but if history tells us anything, it's that GGG doesn't just survive under pressure, they rise to meet it. They've definitely made mistakes, just like any live service game has, but they've also learned to pivot, and in so doing, they've built one of the most respected ARPGs in the world, all from scratch in Chris Wilson's garage in New Zealand. I hope that they can continue to find talented and passionate folks in the smaller pool of New Zealand and Australia to work on their game. They also have some really large shoes to fill with the departure of Frishi and Rory recently, but I'm sure both of those gentlemen will go on to do great things in the industry, and I look forward to seeing what they put out. Some of you may not know who these legends at Grinding Gear Games were. I kind of had a tentative plan to do a video to showcase their legacy and how much of an impact both of them had at the studio, so definitely let me know down in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in seeing or hearing. For those of you that made it this far into the video, first of all, thank you so much, and I have a question for you. Do you think you're going to be coming back to play patch 0.3 in Path of Exile 2, or are you going to be balls deep in patch 3.26? Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to my channel for more Path of Exile 2 and gaming content, and I'll see all of you Exiles in the next one. Farewell.